Jared Polin, phronosphoto.com, and in this video, I want to show you that you can do more than just freeze action with shutter speed. We all know when you start out, it's really easy to capture motion. But that starts to get old and it gets boring after a while because all you're doing is freezing motion. You're not conveying motion. So what are the other things that you can do to convey motion that just doesn't revolve around giving you the highest shutter speed in the world to just freeze action? Because action is great to freeze, but it's also great when you convey the motion that exists in the action that you are trying to capture. There are things like slowing the shutter speed down and getting the motion that way. There's long exposures, panning, which is slowing a shutter speed down and moving with your subject as they go across the screen, or even using flash to convey motion. I'm going to show you examples of 3, 4, or 5 different things you can do with the shutter speed that isn't just freezing action to help convey motion in a scene. So let's jump into the computer here. My brother was reffing a game and I went out to photograph him. And by the time we got to the third quarter, you can see it says third quarter up there on the screen, I was kind of bored of just freezing motion, which is fast shutter speed, 1/1000th of a second, f2.8, 5000 ISO. Everything's gonna be frozen, the ball, the people, everything. But how can I change this? I'm like, well, let's go with a slower shutter speed and see what we come up with, right? I know that my brother's gonna be here stationary for the most part when he's not running up and down the court, but I wanna show that the action is going on out front because he's looking out front. So I went to 1/10 of a second here at 4.5. If you're thinking that you need to have the best camera gear in the world to go with slow shutters, well, the answer to that is you don't. I'm at 4.5. It wouldn't matter if I was at 5.6. Doesn't matter what lens you have or how old the camera is, you can do this. You can convey the motion with slow shutter speeds no matter what gear you have, whether it's the most expensive or the cheapest that is around. So another example is this angle where they're about to inbound the ball. I'm at 1/6 of a second this time, but this one's not very good. It's a bad angle. Keep in mind, the background people are probably going to be in focus because, well, they're not moving. My brother, he's signaling how many seconds there are for them to throw the ball in, and I like the action that's going on the court, but it's not a great angle. So it didn't work. This is another one that didn't work underneath the basket. Just doesn't work, but this underneath the basket does. This time I went to 1/5 of a second. My brother's over there on the right. We've got the action going on here and we've got the ball going up around the hoop. We don't know if it's going in or out, but that's showing you what can happen when you convey the motion. Like I said, not everything needs to be frozen in time. It's easy to freeze things in time, and it's much harder to convey the motion and still have a compelling image. I'm not saying these are the greatest pictures in the world. It was just experimenting, and I'm here to show you that you can experiment too and end up with some fancy or nice results, and not just blurry images for the sake of I'm shaking my camera, it's going to be blurry. But this is with my brother being stationary. What about capturing him moving? What about panning? Panning is where you do this. Rotate and move along the parallel line with your subject moving. It's at a slow shutter speed. But this is where experimentation comes into play because depending on how fast of a subject you're photographing, if it's a runner, if it's a walker, if it's a dog, if it's a child, if it's a plane, if it's a car, it's going to be different, and that's why you need to experiment. But with panning, you just lock your elbows in and you follow through with the subject. You don't stop in the middle, you keep going all the way through, trying to pan at the speed of your subject and hoping that you get them frozen in action. Now, I didn't do that here. It didn't really work. I'm at 1/6 of a second here, and this one doesn't look good. This is bouncing around too much at 1/10 of a second, and none of it is frozen, or I can't tell that, I can tell that it's my brother, but it's not like there's a sharp part of the image. It's all about having at least a sharp part of the image on your subject, and the rest is going to be that blur as you pan with your subject. But I'm not parallel to my brother here, so there's really not a lot of panning I can do because it's just not gonna work out. Same thing, you see how it's jittery like this? Well, on the next shot, I start to get it right. And why is that? Well, on a lot of the modern lenses today, there's options like some of the higher end Canons. You've got image stabilization modes 1, 2, and 3. Same on the Tamrons and same on the Sigmas. 1 is like a general catch-all for image stabilization. 2 and 3, depending on the brand, are gonna be if you're on something that's moving, it's gonna counteract that movement. Or 3 in some cases is going to lock in the horizontal. So it's not going to allow you to get the shaking up and down, it's going to lock that in, so as you pan, the lines are going to be straighter, and that's why I got this image more correct. Perfect? Not exactly, but he's nice and sharp. Look at that. His face is sharp, and we're conveying the motion. Few more. Tried to do something here at a 20th of a second, didn't work. He's not moving. I was trying to get the subjects moving across the frame. This has to go much slower, and then maybe it would have been good, but it's not. Okay, now we're parallel. We're at a 20th of a second. Oh, and also, I have other examples outside of this basketball, so stick around for those because they're gonna be good as well. We're panning with him, boom, we nailed it. Panning with him again, not the best shot, but you're seeing what I'm talking about. And then this is better. Why is this better? He's good. We got the motion going across, but imagine if we froze this. If this was just frozen action, this guy would be in focus, this guy would be in focus, the board with the advertisement would be in focus, but here we're at least conveying the motion. Now, we're gonna move into some images that I did with DSLRs and maybe even with film and flash, just to show you that this isn't just something you do today because it's modern. We could do this at the origins and dawn of photography by dragging the shutter. It's just what you could do all the way back in the day, and you can still do it now. I was out photographing. I was in Kentucky doing a photo shoot. This is Buzz Williams, and he's a coach. This was Virginia Tech at the time, but I was taking terrible photos. They were just like, he's standing here and the players are running drills. But I'm like, okay, how can I make this better? Okay, 13th of a second. Now we can see the drills going on with Buzz nice and frozen right here. Go a little wider, we've got the players going up and down the court. Another one, closer to Buzz, you got the inbounding. They're going back and forth and across the court. This is conveying the motion. That is what we're talking about. Being able to have your subject in focus, but the rest of it showing motion moving around. Let me jump in here real quick because I want to show you our custom Lightroom presets in action on this cute dog right here, starting with Blue's Clues, followed by Brooklyn. We've got C41, Copper Tone, which looks awesome, DeLorean, High C, Kaleidoscope, Mel Brooks, Saltwater Taffy, Thick, Tintype, and Wet Hot American Summer. And my all-time favorite from Pack 1, with one click, we've got Skittles and it goes boom. But all new and exclusive to Pack 4, we have 4 custom adaptive Lightroom presets called Face Enhance, Full Body Skin Enhance, Eye Only Enhance, and Background Blur. So look, if you want to speed up your raw workflow, give yourself a great starting point, or you're just tired of other people's presets sucking, as you can see, our presets do not suck. That's why we created 14 all-new custom Lightroom presets that you can check out right now at froknowsphoto.com/FroPack4. While you're over there, you can play with the sliders to see the befores and the afters, and if you decide to pick them up right now, they are currently on sale. Or if you want to get the Grand Slam bundle that includes Pack 1, 2, 3, and 4, and of course my favorite Skittles, you can save even more. Now, let's get back to the video. For the next set of images, the next 3 images, I want to show you where we're going to have the subject locked in place, very similar to what I did with Buzz Williams there, but opposite of panning with my brother. This is where we're going to leave the shutter open longer because they're like street scenes where we want to convey that there's motion going along on the street. You can do this with any camera that you have, and I highly encourage you, when you go out to do street photos, you just don't freeze people walking towards you. If it's a busy bus station, you want to capture that. We're going to see that in a second in Paris in the subway, but here we go. We're in Venice. We've got a guitar player here busking on the street and people ignoring him as they're going by. I'm at 1/4 of a second. I'm at f/22 at 100 ISO with the Nikon ZFC, so a crop sensor camera. So you can absolutely do this with anything. But we are conveying these people walking by and ignoring this subject. Same thing in the subway in Paris. I'm at 1/5 of a second at 2.8 at 64 with the Nikon D850, back with a DSLR. We can see that we've got musicians playing, but then everybody else is moving across the scene and we're conveying the motion. This comes in handy if you're capturing people coming in and out of doors, or you're watching a train go by. These are the things that, it's not just panning that you can do with slow shutter speeds, but it's movement of time passing, longer exposures. You could set it up on a tripod. So there's so many different options that you can do. And for the next shot, we have a subject standing still at the bar, but we've got a waiter moving through the scene. So it's showing you that there's some motion and commotion going on. But how does it look when you use a flash? Well, this is going back to 2007 when I was on tour with Perry Farrell, and this is 1.3 seconds, right? What is happening here is that I have a flash on top of the camera. Usually you don't shoot concerts that way, but being I was with the band, I could kind of do what I wanted. And what you do here is you have a long exposure. So you set it for, in this case, I set it for 1.3 seconds. And at the very end, when the shutter is about to close, the flash then fires, freezing the action at the end. Let's go back even further to film days. This is September 16th of 2003, a Rolling Stone assignment when I was shooting The Roots. Look at his hand, look at Questlove. This is all movement of his hand, of the sticks. Right here, movements of the sticks on the drums as he's playing, because I popped the flash, I left the shutter open. And that is how you do it. It's just showing you that there are so many different things you can experiment with shutter speed that you just don't always want to freeze action because it gets boring. So experiment. A couple more things here. We've got ones that don't work. This is too slow. It's a bowler. You couldn't tell it was a bowler. Maybe you could, but it wasn't great. Trying to get a picture. Not very good. But then in the World Series, I did this at the Phillies as I was getting bored. Is it perfect? No. It's at 1/20th of a second, f9. Actually, it's the wild card series, so it wasn't the World Series just yet. But it works. But it also doesn't work. See, some people will like it and some people won't. Is it the perfect representation of it? No. I could keep practicing and I can keep trying, but it's gonna be different for everybody. It's gonna be different depending on your shutter speed, depending on the light, depending on the situation you're in, depending on how much movement you have. For example, this shot, I'm panning slightly, but I can't go very far because he's not gonna move very far. That's why you see these parallel in the background. You see the swoosh going to the right. That's because I'm moving to the right as he is throwing the pitch. Where does action come in handy to capture? Well, we got Michael Solomonov. He's a chef here in Philly, world-renowned chef, and he's training. He's punching the punching bag. If I just froze the motion, it wouldn't be great. In this case, it's not perfect, but we're conveying the action that is going on here. So we're moving, we're showing the movement in the image, and we're at 1/10 of a second. Let's keep going. A great opportunity to do this is any bike races, any cars, but you're better off when you're parallel. I wasn't perfectly parallel, so I'm spinning around as they're going by me, hoping that you get something in focus. I think this works. Is it the best example? No, but look at the background. If I was to not do this, the background would just be a building, a storefront, bricks, people standing there looking at you all weird, and it wouldn't be as good of a shot. It wouldn't convey the movement because you would literally be just capturing these guys going down a hill, going at 20 miles an hour or more as they're pedaling, and the background's gonna be perfectly sharp and a distraction from your image. We're trying not to have a distracting image here, and the same thing with the next one, just not as good. Skateboarders, really slow shutter speed here, 1/4 of a second, just to show as I'm panning around. Not perfect, but what you can get. I have 2 more examples that are important. This is an 8-second shutter speed. So this is something that you're going to do on a tripod, and this would be a pretty boring shot if we didn't have light streaks going through the frame. So basically what's happening here is you leave the shutter open, you're exposing properly. Here it was 8 seconds at f/18 at 100 ISO. Not settings that no camera can't do. Every camera can do this, from the most expensive to the cheapest. What you want to do is you keep that shutter open, you wait for streaks of light to go by, and it now creates some extra interest in your images. And the last one that I want to share with you right here is what to do with prop planes. If you're ever photographing an air show and there's prop planes, you don't want to do this. Or if there's helicopters, you don't want to freeze the movement, because now it just looks like it's just floating there. Whereas, now this isn't the perfect example, but now I went to 1/320th of a second, and you can see the prop is moving. It's not just frozen, and we conveyed that the movement is actually happening. So look, like I said, it's not just about freezing motion. I gave you a bunch of different examples you can go out and try on your own. You can do it no matter what camera you have. Look for those different settings on your lenses if you have 1, 2, and 3, because it's going to help you stabilize as you're panning with your subject if you're going to be doing panning. But think about where you can add motion into your images. Make sure you get the images that you need to get before you start experimenting, but just understand that when you try something different, you end up getting some interesting results. Sometimes. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. It's not always going to end up giving you the best results possible, but I went through 4 or 5 different things that you can do with shutter speeds here to try and convey motion and moving time along and doing something other than just freezing motion. So thank you guys very much for watching this video. Jared Polin from Photo.com. See ya.